Now, I'm sure you've all seen the reports that Fenway Sports Group, the Liverpool owner, are looking to add Bordeaux to their stable of clubs. And in fact, FSG have released a statement confirming that is the fact, that they are in talks over a potential deal. So I thought it would be worthwhile just jumping on and maybe having a deeper look at this story and answering a few key questions around it, really. I suppose, that those are, why Bordeaux? Why is this the club that FSG have honed in on? What does it mean for Liverpool? Are there some real potential benefits there within this multi-club model? And what happens next? What's the timeline for a potential deal being completed? How likely is it? So I think the best place to start really is that first question, really, is why Bordeaux? And as ever, really, with the way that modern football is, it comes down to, of course, money. You look at the financial picture for Bordeaux and it isn't particularly good. They're in a little bit of trouble at the moment. There's a few reasons behind that. One is COVID. The pandemic did, we saw in the Premier League, it did harm to some clubs. They lost out on an awful lot of money with not having supporters in. But if you're a Premier League club, with the finances around that, it's a lot easier to wear a blow like that. And it's true even of the teams that are further up Ligue 1 as well. They've been able to sort of weather that storm a little bit better. But for a club like Bordeaux, that's not absolutely huge, COVID had a real impact. And then also, and this happened to all French clubs, there was the collapse of the French TV rights deal as well. A company called MediaPro went bankrupt, and that had a huge ramifications really financially for clubs like Bordeaux, missing out on that money. And again, the clubs higher up the ladder, Paris Saint-Germain or Marseille, for example, would find that easier to wear that financial blow. But as I say, Bordeaux, not easy. And that was combined with the fact that they had American owners around that time as well that withdrew the funding, said they didn't want to make up for any shortfall anymore, and for that reason then Bordeaux went into administration. And it's been a really sort of difficult ride since, because obviously those financial troubles have then had on-pitch consequences. Now in the 21-22 season they were relegated from Ligue 1, so again another blow to them, and they've been floating in and around Ligue 2 since then. Obviously they became very close actually to getting promoted straight back in the first season there, but then they finished mid-table. But then this season, or the end of this season, another blow really to them, and not really one that was in their control in terms of the sporting element of the performance. And that is that the French authorities have decided that it should be relegated again on the basis that they don't believe that they have the funding in place to complete next season. So being pushed down to the third tier of French football. Now that's an organisation called the DNCG, which looks after all the professional football clubs in France and looks at their accounts and has made that judgment. And now Bordeaux, it's up to them. Obviously they are fighting that. They've put an appeal in, and the appeal is actually part of the reason we know about this story, is because they've said, look, we're going to get this funding from FSG, and if they come in, we can definitely complete next season. We don't deserve to be relegated. So it's an interesting one in terms of how that plays out now, that decision. Obviously that appeal is in there, but if the French authorities decide, well, we're going to relegate you anyway, does that scupper the deal with FSG? That could be a little bit of a, because it's the numbers will be different when you're buying a club that's in the second tier versus a club that's in the third tier. But so it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that one plays out, and that relegation decision, I imagine, will be absolutely key to whether this sale gets made, this deal is done. So. But there's plenty there. If they can avoid relegation, there's plenty there for FSG to like. Plenty of good reasons to buy Bordeaux. It's not just because it's a distressed asset. There are other appealing elements to the club that make it a good one to add to this multi-club model. One is that it's quite a big club that is well supported. By all accounts, been getting really good crowds, even in the second tier. So. And you remember as well, it's not too long ago since they were quite a successful side. I mean, I remember playing against Liverpool not too long ago in the Champions League, and then in the Europa League a few years after that as well. So, they've been in and around European competition. And in fact, they only won the Ligue 1 title as recently as 2009. So only 15 years ago they were French champions. They won the French Cup in 2013 as well. So it's a big club, great support, recent history of winning trophies and being in European competition. So, on the face of it, really kind of a bit of a sleeping giant, really. So there's real potential there for FSG to go in and turn it around. And obviously, they'll be confident they'll be able to do that as well, because the whole reason they brought Michael Edwards back in that CEO of football role was to oversee projects like this, to put this multi-club model together and turn clubs around in this way. Do what they did with Liverpool. Obviously it would be more drastic in this case given where Bordeaux are up to, but obviously they see that there's real potential there in Bordeaux, and I think that's a big part of why they've gone and done this deal. And obviously the big question will be, what does that mean for Liverpool? What are the benefits there? All the reporting around this suggests that very much Liverpool and Bordeaux will be considered separate entities. He's not, turning Bordeaux into a feeder club or anything like that. But without doubt, there are going to be benefits there for Liverpool within this multi-club model. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I can think of a few off the top of my head. One is that Brexit has been a little bit of a blow to Liverpool in terms of youth recruitment in recent years. We've seen that focus they've had on domestic talent, but that's basically been forced on them because of the rules around Brexit. They can no longer go to Europe and sign, say, a 16-year-old in the way that they did with Stefan Bajcetic from Celta Vigo and then bring them into the first team. That's not possible because the UK is outside Europe now. But say you have a club like Bordeaux, you could sign someone like Stefan Bajcetic from Celta Vigo, say, park him at Bordeaux for a couple of years, know that he's getting your sort of training in your sort of clubs or your family of clubs, their style of play, and then after a couple of years, then when he turns 18, maybe he can make the step up and move over to Liverpool. So I do think it will be helpful for them in that. And it's not just actually European talents, it's talents from around the world. Again, if you're buying a player direct from South America, sometimes it's a big question mark, isn't it? Can they make the step up from, say, Brazilian football to come straight into the Premier League? That is a huge leap. But if you can put them somewhere in a European club for a couple of years, they get the benefits of developing a really talented youngster. And then obviously as the club who's further up the food chain, which Liverpool will definitely be in this case, then you can benefit from that couple of years of experience they can get in European football. So I'm no doubt that Liverpool see that as something really handy. And then, speaking about youth development, I actually think that's going to be a real cornerstone of this multi-club model that Liverpool are pursuing at the moment. And I think the reason you can see that is the appointment of Pedro Marquez as Director of Football Development. He came from Benfica, and I was listening to an interview with him recently where it was really kind of interesting, talking about the way the processes they put in place at Benfica to turn that into what is, let's be honest, an absolute talent factory. It's been churning out players at a remarkable rate, and I think there'll be benefits clearly for Liverpool's academy, and I'm sure there will be changes there to how they run things and trying to just keep improving, because it's doing really well at the moment. But also, if you can put a similar project in place at somewhere like Bordeaux, again, turn that into a bit of a talent factory in itself, move them up the French football food chain, and because you look at Benfica, for example, that's still, even though they're seen as this youth factory, they still win trophies in Portugal, they still challenge for trophies, they're still one of the big clubs, they're still in European competition. So it's not kind of, we'll turn this into a youth academy almost, and it doesn't matter what the first team results are. You can have the best of both worlds in that regard. So I do think there's benefits there, definitely for Bordeaux, but also, of course, then you would think about the Liverpool benefits. But I think for both clubs could do really well at that sort of youth orientated approach, which I think is very much the route that Liverpool are going to go down, and I think makes it kind of an interesting project to watch. So I guess kind of the question now is really, what's next, what happens, and I think a key element of this, as I said, is the relegation appeal. Whether they get through with that and escape relegation. I think that will be key to getting a deal over the line, certainly on the current terms that they're getting close to agreeing. But also I think the reception of this news in France is going to be important. Obviously, these are proud fans of a big club. As I said, this is a bit of a sleeping giant, Bordeaux. So a lot rides on really what supporters think of it. I mean, we've seen Strasbourg and Troyes in recent years, who are owned by Chelsea and City. There've been protests against their ownership, not happy about it, don't want to be a feeder club, and so it'd be interesting to see how this news is received and whether fans are on board with it. Maybe probably helps FSG's case that Bordeaux are in this financial trouble at the moment, and that maybe it'll be welcome to save them from the fact that they probably at the moment that they're going to be relegated to the third tier. I don't think any supporter will want that, but I think if they do get this deal over the line, I think they'll also have to prove themselves to those supporters that it is not just going to be a feeder club for Liverpool, it's going to be its own separate entity. They're trying to bring success there in the same way that they did at Liverpool, albeit likely on a slightly different level, because it's going to be difficult to kind of turn a Ligue 1 club into one of the top European sides now, unless you say Paris Saint-Germain or whatever. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they sell that project and whether the fans really get on board with it. But I think you know, we'll have to see how that plays out. And I think, as I say, that hearing over whether they get relegated, that appeal, it's going to be a key thing in terms of whether this deal gets over the line. So I think obviously I'll have to keep my ear to the ground, and all the reporters will, and we'll see what happens with that, and I'll try and keep you across it. But I do think this is an interesting project. If it's the first club that you can get over the line in terms of that multi-club model, then it looks like a really smart purchase for a number of reasons that I've detailed there. Do let me know in the comments what you guys think. You know, how do you feel about multi-club models at all? Actually, you know, I think sometimes it's a little bit distasteful. I don't love the idea of these great historic clubs being turned into feeder clubs, but if it's done in the right way, if Liverpool approach it in the right way, you know, maybe it can be a success. Let me know what you think. Do you think it will benefit Liverpool? Do you think it can benefit Bordeaux? Do you think it will be good news for them? And as ever, if you can like and subscribe as well as leaving a comment, that's always massively helpful. And yeah, just a little bit of an update on this one. It's something slightly different. Hopefully, and I always say this at the end of every video, that there'll be some more transfer news to come in the coming days. We hope so. And if so, I'll be back on here to talk about that. So hopefully, I'll see you guys very soon.